Hi, I'm Mark Wilson, the Engineering Heretic. And of course, I'm going to follow on from what I talked about the other week about injection molded parts. And I'm going to talk a little bit about complex parts and some of the issues toolmakers encounter when they're building an injection mold. Of course, I have a few parts here. I've got the original part I looked at before, and I want to talk about, first of all, the machine size. Most machines, injection molding machines, are referred to in their tonnage, and some of the smallest machines, molding machines, because they run sideways, and their clamping force, when they close up the mold and hold the mold together, is referred to as tonnage. And the smallest machines around these days are probably something like about a 25-ton machine. Now that's a lot of force for, why on earth would you need a clamping force of 25 tons? And this is the smallest machines that are available. And that's because we're talking about hydraulic pressure. In this particular part here, the surface or projected area in that area there, whatever you can see, of course, plastic is injected into that through a gate, like we talked about before. A point about here somewhere. The plastic runs across here, and it's molten, and it's pumped in under a huge amount of pressure. Something like and the surface area you end up with forcing a mold apart is something around about between 2 and 5 ton per square inch. I'm not sure if that's metric or imperial, but it's roughly around those figures. I'm not sure whether it's imperial tons or metric tons. I can't remember actually. So on this one here, we have a diameter here. There's around about 5 square inches of projected area in that area there. And of course, if you multiply that by 5 if it's 5 ton, that's 25 ton. Just to hold that together, to stop that with the plastic is injected molten at around about 2,000 pounds per square inch or something like that, that will likely pop that mold apart and cause the plastic to squirt out across the mold, the shut face, which is the area where the mold closes off. This is called the shut face. So on that one there, that's around about a 25 ton. But this is probably going to be a 2-cavity mold. So there'll be one here and another one over here. And normally the sprue area, is in the center of the mold, and the cavities are around usually 2 or 4 or 8. They're often multiples of 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and so forth. So this one here, if it's a 2-cavity, we'll need a 50-ton press to hold this together. And if it's a 4-cavity, we'll need a 100-ton press to hold that together, because the projected area of all the 4 cavities will cause that mold to burst open under pressure. So we need quite a lot of force to make this work. Now there's some other issues too. Let's talk about a few more issues. That one there is pretty simple. Let's talk about a complex part. This particular part here I made in the 1990s. It's a BMW instrument cluster for an E36 3 Series BMW. Yeah, I know it's an E36 because there are narrow windows here. The 46s are slightly wider. Now, another thing too is one would argue, why was Australia building clusters for BMW cars? That's a German car. And the reason being, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, this particular cluster was also being manufactured in Germany as well, but BMW wanted to manufacture BMWs also in Thailand. And of course, Thailand needed to have their own tooling, and they built well, they were building BMW cars, but an organisation called Video Instruments, which is a German company as well, manufactured the instrument clusters for the Asian-based BMW E36 Series 3 cars. So Australia got a little bit of that because of the import tariffs. If we could prove we had Australian content in the car, i.e. the instrument cluster and other things as well, then of course they were exempt some of the tariffs. So there was a financial, political reason why it was manufactured in this part of the world as well. I believe they are also manufactured in, I think, in South Africa as well. Let's talk about some of the moulding problems with this particular part. Remember what I said about the projected area? The projected area is anything you can see in that plane there. It's not too bad because there's a lot of openings here, which are just fresh air. So everything you see there is going to force this mould apart. And of course, not only, and I think it's something like about 150 tonne press to run this, the whole mould itself, including all its parts and everything like that, the mould assembled, weighed about 1,250 kilos. So it's a tonne and a quarter in the metrics, a metric tonne and a quarter. But there's other issues going on with this particular part that also are an issue. Let's first of all look at some of the shape of this part. Not only do we have a projected area here in that direction there that will cause the mould to burst apart under pressure, we also have a very thick wall here and almost no wall down here. So there's also going to be a force that's going to push this mould sideways, because the injection force on this wall here will be a bigger surface area sideways. So we have to counteract the force that's pushing that way, forcing the mould sideways, as well as clamping it together. That's one thing. We have to counteract that force. And normally, what you do here is you build on the shut face around here as it curves around, an angle on the other side of it, and a wedge on the other half of the mould that reaches down there, usually with a wear plate, to lock in that counteracting force. There's an insert machined out of solid steel for this half of the mould. Another separate inside that insert that does this area around here. And this is on the fixed side of the tool where the injection is. And that has to be bolted in brute force because it's like the insert's likely to kick sideways. So that has to be held in very firmly. And let's look at our shut face. This is a really complicated one. The shut face edge runs around this edge around here. It comes up to this area here, and this is where we have this little crossover where we have to reach up. You can see the change in the split line here. We have to reach up to that point there, go across there, then back down again, and all the way around here. When we get to this area here, before we actually arrive at this edge here, the shut face drops down because it has to get to the bottom side of that area there, runs across here, up this angle up here, and then around the outside of this, because it has to do, this hole here has to be done with a sliding core, comes down here around there and across there and around there and so on and so forth. There's a sliding core that comes out in that direction there, another one that comes out here. There's also another sliding core that does this area here and one on the other side. So 4 sliding cores, a mould force that is quite pronounced, pushing this part sideways. And also, let's talk about how this part is gated. Now, the original tool in Germany, when we were building this particular mould, was a 2-cavity mould. And they had one being moulded there and another one being moulded in the same tool. And they would be moulded sort of 2 would come out at once. One was here, one was there. That counteracts in some respects the locking force of that and the force pushing that one sideways. Of course, the other cavity is pushing the opposite way. And so theirs was a 2-cavity, because they would double their production rates. In Australia, we built a single cavity mould. So now we have to move this part to the centre of the mould, but we have the plastic coming to the centre of the mould about that point there. So what we had to do in a single mould, because we didn't need quite production runs, and there's other reasons why a single cavity mould is beneficial. We then branched off with a hot runner system that went down to that face there, and also down to that face there. So we've got 2 hot runner systems reach into there, and then a cold runner system running across this area here. And we'll flip the part over. In order to keep this balance, we ran 1 gate coming across here into that boss there from this area here, and another gate running onto this side here doing exactly the same thing, but to keep this part balanced, we ran a gate to that point there and another one almost to the same point to balance this, and also a secondary gate that went across here to this boss here, and the same with this one. Now there's other things going on here that are even more important. In this section here, as I said before, the shut face is this across here, and it does a couple of little dives around a few areas here. Then we have this skirt area around here. Now this is only in the moving side of the tool where the ejection is. So we have to get this part out of the tool, and we have to push very firmly on the ejection system to get this part out of these rib areas. Now there's a main insert of this bolt of this die here. There's a secondary insert like on the other side here, but this time it's flat. Insert with inside that insert there with this thin wall cut out of it. And that's a separate insert. Now to get this part out, this is rather complicated. We really need to push. The ejection is on these bosses here. There's a sleeve ejector there. There's another one here, there, and there. There's also an ejector pin on the end of these prongs here, and the same on these ones here. There's an ejector pin on the end of those as well. There's also a sleeve ejector there, and one there. But we have this rib around here that has to be, you can't just push on that front face there, because the ejector pin will just punch through the part and basically leave a great big hole in your part, and this will stuck behind. So we need to push at the bottom of this rib. So let's look at how this is done. Not exactly obvious, but you can see there's a slight little part line where there's something reaching up from this side of the mould here. There's another section here and another section there. And you can see a little bit of it jutting out around here. There's a little square line around here as well. And that is what we call a bar ejector. There's a bar or square bar attached to the ejection system that mimics the same profile as this rib here. That when this reaches forward, this section here pushes from the very bottom of that rib there all the way to the front face here on the inside of this part. Then we need to get the other side out, but we have a problem. If we have a bar on the inside here and another bar ejection on the inside here, it's going to lock the part in place. So what we did on the opposite side, we did the same bar ejection system as we did here, except that we put them on the outside of the part, reaching across onto the shut face. So you can see these lines of these bar ejectors here going from this time the outside and reaching across on the shut face and pushing out from there. So when the part ejected forward, it is free to lift off in that direction a little bit that way and remove the part. This is quite a complicated mould, and it took us, I think, around about 1,100 hours, man hours, to build this particular mould. The last time I saw this thing running was back in the late 90s before they discontinued the model. This particular mould had done 1,000,000 shots. A single cavity mould, we'd had to do a little bit of maintenance along the way. A few things happened to it. But basically a single cavity mould running 1,000,000 shots. So there's all sorts of forces. I think it's an 150-ton press with a massive side force that need to be counteracted. We had injection problems, and we also have ejection problems we had to deal with. So some of these parts become very, very complicated indeed. And all of these tools are made out of solid steel, machined into usually a tool steel. I think we're using D2 through hardened inserts, into a P20 bolster, and some of the back plates and things like that are just mild steel. Very complicated mold, a lot of work to build. And that's just some more of the issues that you encounter as an injection moulder. And I'm Mark Wilson, and thanks for watching.